Certain disagreements that happen in marriage, how can a couple or how can partners manage disagreements in a way that strengthens their relationship rather than weakening it? Disagreements can be healthy,
yes,
and they can be unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think a disagreement can be healthy?
Definitely a disagreement should be healthy. It should not tear us apart. It should make us stronger. But how we solve or how we attempt to solve this disagreement.
I am human, did not feel obey. Kutendere murume, I use emotion.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gota Men's Issues. Today we have got an esteemed guest, Dr Rumbi Nyanhoto. She is an academic. She has a PhD in social work. She is also the founder and CEO of Safer Family Solutions, that is based in Truganina, Victoria. And the organization focuses on addressing family issues through family therapy and helping migrant families deal with child protection and family law. So that's the kind of weight that we have here. Dr. Nyanhoto, welcome to the program, Gota Men's Issues.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You are the first female guest on our program. So I wonder, people are probably going to be wondering, what is a woman doing on a program to do with men's issues? But I always think the best way that men can get help, or the best way that men can be tailor-made to suit the needs of women, is if women come in and help.
Yeah.
Because some of the solutions that we give each other are way out of line or are way out of your imaginations. Yeah. So thank you so much and welcome to our programs, to our program today. Our topic that we are looking at today, Dr. Rumbi, is conflict resolution in marriage. So that's what you are helping us here today. I hope with your experience and with your academic background as well, you are going to definitely manage to give us solutions to some of the questions that we have. The questions that we have today, some came from the community, and then some we had to do some research, but some came from the members of the community who suggested the topic. So thank you so much, and welcome to the program. Probably what I can do is to start by asking you a question. What are most of the common causes of conflict in marriages, and how can couples address them?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and thank you again for having me. So most common causes of conflict in marriage, there are so many, and they can range from anything, from a little thing to a big thing. But I would summarize and say issues around finances. So people disagreeing in terms of, what's more important to be bought, how are we going to use the money? So differences around finances, or even lack of finances. Or even when finances are too much and there is mismanagement of finances. So finances is one of the things. Also, there is an issue around infidelity. So when another partner cheats, and also knowing that infidelity is not only when you are caught with someone, it could be emotional as well. There are also issues around understanding differences, differences in perspective. Very small things like, I want the blankets to be this side and I want the blankets to be this side. Different perspective, people can fight. Right. There are issues of in-laws, how much in-laws are involved in marriage. Yeah. That is one of the major issues that causes conflict in marriage. And when I say in-laws, not only the men's parents, but also the wife's parents. Yeah. How much, because in my experience, I get a lot of people saying her family or his family is way too much into the business of marriage. So there are many issues. There are also issues of children, parenting. Yeah. Differences in ways of parenting children that could cause conflict if people don't agree. Okay.
You have touched on a lot of issues here. You touched finances, you touched infidelity, you touched in-laws, you touched parenting as well. On the area of in-laws, how do you think a couple can navigate that? Let's say I have my in-laws, or let's say my wife's in-laws. My parents probably they don't like my wife. How do you think people can navigate that one?
I think I would say there are stages in navigating this one.
Okay.
So I would start from pre-marriage, because I know you have a following of men who are not yet married, isn't it?
Yeah.
So pre-marriage, I think, because we are African, and when we marry, to be honest, we don't only marry for ourselves.
Yeah.
You are marrying for the family.
For the community.
Yes, you are marrying for the community, for the whole village.
Yeah.
So pre-marriage, ensure that you help your wife to sort of buy your parents' love. And why do I use the word buy? Because when our mother-in-laws raised our husbands, which is men, you guys, they are so attached to them, and there are expectations that they have with them. And they, most of the times in their mind, they want these expectations to continue even after the person is married. So sometimes they don't have an understanding that now a person is married, that love that I used to get is divided and stuff like that. So it starts before marriage in terms of involving your family, in terms of helping your wife understand your family. Because what makes your mom not to like your wife, it's usually differences in perspective. So your wife has a way of doing things, whereas your mom has a way of doing things. But we want to try and merge these things, not to be differences that cause conflict, but to be differences that they can complement each other. So starting from pre-marriage, don't hide your girlfriend. And if you know that your mother probably does not like certain type of things, slowly introduce that to your girlfriend so that they are aware. This type of family, this is how they like their salsa being done, for example. This is how they want someone who wakes up early and do this or that. Families are different. So just being aware. But in marriage, when you are in marriage now, it is important to understand that you are one. Okay, so many men, they make a mistake of still wanting to be like they are not one with their wife. And wanting to put their mothers as first preference. And I'm not saying this because I want the mother not to be seen or not to be seen as important. But when you marry, the truth is you are now one with your wife and you're not doing things together. So it's important that if your wife, so let's say, for example, your mom does not like your wife, do not let your wife address this issue with your mom. That is a no-go area. Because once that happens, that conflict is never going to end. And your mom is probably never going to forgive your wife for confronting her to say, oh, you don't like me because you did this or you did that. There has to be wisdom there. So you, as much as men, many men, from my experience, they want to run away from it. They'll be like, I'm not part of it. Just deal with your issue, the two of you. But it will still cause conflict. But it is important for men to use wisdom. So not attacking your mom, but use wisdom to let her see how important your wife is for you. And the moment your mom sees that your wife is important for you, she will also want to show you that your wife is important to me. You see how
I'm getting the
question. So for example, let me give you an example. Let's say you are joining finances with your wife. Okay? Before marriage, you were like, mom is payday. What do you want? And mom will be like, I want Nando's, I want this, I want that. And you buy it for her. Because there's no woman in your marriage and you're not yet married. Now, when you are married, what you need to do before your mom asks for the Nando's, give your wife money. Buy mom Nando's. You see? Because if your mom comes to you and say, I want Nando's, and you be like, now I'm married, I've got bills now. She's not going to hate you. She's going to hate this one that came. Because it's this one that's making the Nando's not to come. But if your wife earlier shows that love, so you are sort of transferring your love for your mom to your wife, for your wife to show it, then it makes them merge in a way.
You have spoken on the side of mother-in-law, the paternal side. Maternal sides, I'm seeing a lot of issues as well, especially when people come here in the diaspora. sometimes financial dynamics they shift. I've seen some mother-in-laws, the wife's parents, who can no longer handle the fact that the woman earns more than the husband. Some will probably begin to say, you're spending my daughter's money, causing conflicts. I've seen these happen a lot because of the nature of my job.
Yeah.
How do you handle
Yes.
your mom as a woman who is coming into your marriage and probably having a conflict with your husband?
Yes, so that one is actually more problematic. Very, very problematic, and I've seen those ones as well. But I would say that start by not giving too much information. Remember, I said it goes both ways. Remember, I said that you are now one. So whether it's the husband anymore or it's the wife anymore, you are still one.
So she doesn't have to know.
She doesn't have to know. Why would we have to tell her that I'm now earning 10,000 now and my husband is only earning 2,000?
Maybe it's common sense. Probably I'm a security guard and my wife has got I don't know, whatever that profession. So there's common sense where you really see that the balance is shifted here. I think like my daughter is probably earning now thrice more than my son-in-law.
It doesn't matter. I feel like if moms, what I've seen in my experience, if the mother-in-laws from the wife's side are able to have that upper hand, that means that something is wrong there. The wife, so your wife should be able to stand her ground to her mom, to say, this is a no-go area for her to intervene. That's allowed.
All right.
Because and also hype your husband, even if it's a you are security.
I hope women are hearing that one. Because you need to hype us. Every woman who is listening right now, the doctor said you must hype us, please.
Yes, even if he is not. I'll give you an example. When I came here, a practical example, because I didn't say it, but I'm a wife and I'm a mother of 3 boys. But when I came here, we were having our last born, who was I think about 4 months. So we actually decided that my husband, while he's waiting for his registration for his profession, he wanted to stay at home while he's waiting for that, and I was working. But when my relatives call me, I would be like, the way that man is working, because there is no one. I would explain to them the diaspora situation. Because if we were to find someone who would care or pay for daycare and pay for someone who drives the kid here and there, we were still going to spend a lot of money. So I would explain to them that literally he's actually doing more work than me. So you need to hype your husband, whether he's a security man and you are a director somewhere, find a value in that and transfer that value to your family. Because the moment they hear you not giving value to him, that's when they say, this one is just eating my child's money.
If you continue stepping on that, but I think men are going to request that we bring you back. We bring you back. Please hype us, our women over there. So so on all those conflicts that we have spoken about, probably we'll come back to other conflicts because I was writing them down here. We'll come back to some of them, but I just want to probably finish my line of questioning here. How important is communication in resolving these marital conflicts between the couple?
So communication is very important. Back in the day when I started practicing as a family therapist, we used to have something written on the wall for couples, which was written, communication in a marriage is like water to a growing seed.
Communication in a marriage
is like water to a growing seed. Yes.
Powerful.
Which means that if we have a seed growing,
seed,
yes, CSEED. So which means that if we have a seed growing and we don't water it, obviously it's going to die.
All right.
So we should know that we cannot do without communication. And we should also know that for me to know what my partner is going through, for me to know for my partner to know my aspirations, my goals, what I'm worried about, it can only be through communication. And if we don't communicate, we end up sort of doing fembera. What's going on with this person? I don't know, assumptions. I don't know what's happening with this, and you're just guessing things. So communication is beneficial not only in conflict, but even also in what makes you happy. Because for me, there are things that makes me happy, which is different for my partner or for my husband. But we can only know that, okay, this one likes this after we've communicated or through communication.
Right.
But we should also know that communication is not only verbal, because we are used to say that communication is when I tell you that I don't like this, or I'll tell you that I like this.
Okay.
But non-verbal communication in a marriage can be very destructive, extremely destructive.
Right.
Because if you walk in the house, or your wife is walking in the house, and you say, "Hello, Mama, how are you?" and she keeps quiet,
It's dangerous.
that's very dangerous. And dangerous in the sense that you're gonna start assuming,
What have I done?
what have I done? Or maybe you start to think about a conflict that you had 2 weeks, and you start to say, I think she's still angry about that one.
Yeah.
And maybe you become defensive too, and you start to say, I'm not going to talk to her anymore. But maybe she's just quiet because she was stressed by work and she didn't hear you. So non-verbal communication is not solving things, because I know from my experience, people tell me, I decided to keep quiet for peace. There's nothing like
There's
that.
nothing like keeping quiet for peace.
There's
It's keeping
nothing.
quiet for war, not for
Yes,
peace. Okay.
yes, it's keeping quiet for war, and you are increasing conflict. So communication is very, very, very important in knowing what your partner likes, and also in discussing what you guys are worried about or what's going on in the marriage.
Okay, that's good. So when we are talking about communication, there is listening involved.
Yes.
So what role does active listening play in conflict resolution, and how can couples improve this skill, active listening? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because why did I bring this? Because as a man, you can be talking to me,
and you don't listen.
but I'm actually thinking of soccer. Yeah, you are just talking, and I'm just
Yeah.
So how can I improve active listening as a man? Especially, I don't know if women can be able to do that.
Yeah, women can.
Oh, they can.
Yeah,
So
I mean to listen.
Yeah, they can listen.
They
Right?
can listen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for men we've got a skill
Yeah.
where we can listen but not listen. So,
I don't know if that's a skill. Or
So-
it's a big skill.
so how can we improve on active listening as men?
So maybe let's start by talking about what active listening is. So active listening is when you are present.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You are present with mind, you are present with body.
With all your faculties.
Yes,
Yeah.
with all your faculties, you are present. So you're not doing that thing of thinking about soccer when someone is talking to you. So you actually need to condition yourself.
Yeah.
When your wife says, let's talk about this, or when you're talking about something, you need to condition yourself to say, we are talking about this, and this is not the time to be thinking about soccer or other things. This is the time to be talking about this thing.
Okay.
What we want to talk about. And then when we also talk about active listening, we are talking about listening to understand meaning. Okay? Listening to get the meaning. Now, when I'm talking to you and you are thinking about soccer, you will probably never understand or get the meaning. Because let me give an example. If I say, there are times that I can say, you know what, my husband, I'm not happy about this, but I'm smiling. Okay? Then there is a time when I'm like, I'm really not happy about this. And you can see my face that, I'm really not happy.
Yeah.
But you can only get the difference when you listen actively, when you listen to understand the meaning,
Okay.
to get the meaning.
All right.
And when you get the meaning, conflict resolution becomes better, because now you can see probably what she's mad about or what she's not happy about is something that you thought it's not a big deal. But if you listen for meaning, you can actually go, so it's a big deal for her. And then you can now start to say, okay, so how can we work these things out? Because I can see this is affecting my wife.
Okay.
So it's important for you to be present in the moment and for you to listen for the meaning, because when you do that, conflict resolution becomes better.
Okay.
And also women can notice when you are thinking about soccer, yet you are saying you are listening to me. And I'll get more angry because I know that I'm not being heard.
Okay.
Because what I want is to be heard. What I want is for you to understand, to get the meaning that what happened here did not sit well with me.
All right.
So you need to be present in the moment.
Okay. All right. You spoke about active listening on serious issues. There are times when because for example, if I'm coming back from work and my wife asks me how was work, I can probably say it was fine. Today we attended a seminar and I'm done. But if I probably ask my wife how work was, she will start from the banana that she ate at the break, and then the people that she saw fighting at the train station, all those things. So that's where we are saying, do I really have to be actively listening to all those things, or I'll just have to think about soccer until she tells me what really happened at work? Was this? Sorry,
Well, I think you should actively listen, because you know what? Men and women are different.
Yeah.
And I know you're 100% right. I do that too. You know, when I'm asked how was work, I'll start from this and that to this and that, and I'm still explaining. But that's how we are.
Okay.
We are so much for details.
So I'm talking about so you're saying there are two opposites here.
Yeah.
There is a side that brings in details, and there is a side that doesn't have the listening capacity for the details.
Yeah.
So why are we saying the men must listen rather than for us to say the woman must reduce the details?
Oh, the woman cannot reduce the detail because that's how she's made.
Oh, the man who is made in a way that she can't listen.
Well, I don't think the men can't listen. Okay. Or maybe I'm wrong because I'm not a man. No. I think that you just think that this one is not important. What she's talking about is not important. Then you think about soccer. But maybe for us to get I get what you're saying. Yeah. For us to get together in a certain way, maybe let's say that if I'm talking about a banana that I ate at work and you don't listen, I would probably, and I think most women would go with me on this one, I would probably not worry too much. Okay. You know, if you're thinking about the soccer.
You won't ask me the color of the banana after.
I know. Okay. I would probably not worry. But if it's something that's important, that's serious, that's affecting the marriage, and I want to talk about, that's the one that we say you should be present. Otherwise, we talk a lot and we know that sometimes the capacity for listening is not there. But if it's something that's important, that's affecting the marriage, then you can't be thinking about soccer now.
Okay. I hear you. All right. Now, you spoke about a lot of issues when we spoke about the causes of conflict.
Yeah.
At what point should couples seek professional help, like counseling, for unresolved conflict or something along those lines? So let's say we have conflicts that have been probably unresolved. Yeah. Probably my wife has decided to keep quiet for peace.
Yes.
And when you keep quiet for peace, there are lots of issues that are not going to be resolved.
Yeah.
At what point do we really have to say, oh, this now needs us to stand up and seek for help?
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
Because many people, from my experience, they take a long time. Okay. So they will keep quiet for peace for a very long time. And, you know, with marriage, the more you keep quiet or the more you keep these unresolved issues, the more you grow apart. The more someone thinks about, maybe this marriage is not making sense for me. Okay. So we should not stay long and wait for long. Okay. We should, the moment you sleep without saying good night to each other or not talking to each other, that very moment you should seek help.
Okay. So I know for women it's easy for them to seek help. Men it's a big problem. Yeah. How can a woman who is listening to this program manage to push their husband to seek help? Because men generally, they don't open up. It's hard for men to actually open up. Most of them. Yes. It's a struggle. Yeah. How best can we make a man quickly seek help?
I think we're counting on you on that one.
Okay.
To help us with the men. Because I've met a lot of women who have done a lot of work to try, even before the problem gets worse. Yeah. But African men are really difficult in terms of going for marriage counseling and stuff like that. I think there needs to be more education for men, like what you are doing with this platform, that there's really nothing wrong with seeing a professional for help. Okay. Because I could say that a woman could encourage, there are things that a woman can do. For example, do not point fingers and say, I need to take you to Dr. Rumbi because something is wrong with you. He will not come. Okay. Yeah. You can also encourage. I can give an example of some women. I give them advice to say, just, can you go with me? I think I am the problem. Okay. Can you go? And he went.
Oh, and then
because men have got this big ego. They don't want to be helped. They think they've got everything covered. And she did that, it worked. But sometimes some are really difficult. And it's more about perspective and education in terms of, we are getting help for us. And it's not this one. It's not pointing fingers. Yeah. We just need help for us.
Okay. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, because for me, I probably always encourage, especially women, to be in good books with those elderly people that their men like.
Yes, that's another thing.
I think that can be a starting point.
Yeah.
Because men don't like to go to strangers and open up.
Yeah.
So if you see that, if you are married into a family, you find out that my husband is very close to this angle. Keep that angle closer, so that when things go haywire, you go to that angle. Your men will be more comfortable. That's how we deal. I probably encourage, because I understand men. You have to drag them screaming and rolling too.
Yes, but some uncles also will be having a very bad advice to this man.
Yeah, of course.
That's where the problem is. They'll be like, this is expected. This is normal. In my experience, this is normal for a marriage. This is not a big thing, So there are some elders who are really good, who will point your husband in a good direction. Yeah. But there are also some who are not very good. Okay. From that point, I can also add that sometimes it could be not only elders, those who go to church. I find it very helpful, because sometimes men don't want to go to a professional counselor like me, who's a woman. I would say to them, in your church, try to approach your pastors or your elders, and some men are comfortable with that, or a certain group that is in the community, a group of men where issues are discussed. It can be helpful.
Oh, that's good. Thank you so much. Certain disagreements that happen in marriage, how can a couple or how can partners manage disagreements in a way that strengthens their relationship rather than weakening? Disagreements can be healthy,
yes,
and they can be unhealthy. How do you think a disagreement can be healthy?
It is definitely a disagreement should be healthy. It should not tear us apart. It should make us stronger. But how we solve, or how we attempt to solve this disagreement, is what determines whether it's going to make us stronger or weaker. Okay. So the issue is on the how part. How do you solve your problems? How do you solve your conflicts when they happen? And there are many things that we can do that can help us to solve problems in a way that strengthens us. Number one is viewing the problem as the problem, not as connected to the person. Okay. I know it's difficult because
separating the problem and the person.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the moment I attach you to what I'm saying you've done wrong, I will see you very well connected to this problem, and will probably not solve this.
Okay.
So for example, if I had sent my husband to buy something and he forgets, I would think about his forgetfulness separate from him. And then it makes me think about what could be other reasons. Because I should not always be thinking that anything that happens that I don't like is an attack.
It's a deliberate attempt to
Yes. I should be thinking that there could be other reasons that led to this. So trying to separate the problem from the person.
In the spiritual realm, we say separate the demon from the person, or the spirit from the person. Okay.
Yes.
I hear you. I understood this one.
Yes. Right. And then there are also time. Time to discuss the conflict is very important. Okay. Like we said earlier, if someone is stressed, and that's when the time you say, I want to talk about this now. Now I want answers. Answers are never going to come, and you just end up, going apart. Okay. So a time to discuss is very important, checking in with someone's emotional state during that time. Right. Because sometimes people say things when they're angry, which they don't mean, but it's just because they had a bad day that day. Okay. So time is very important. And also ensuring that every party is heard when you are discussing, this conflict or this disagreement. Okay. So hearing you from your perspective and hearing me from my perspective, and trying to come together to understand each other. Okay. And I think I can give an example of parenting, because I have a lot of children who are going through issues, in Australia, and parents start blaming each other. You are the one who's too permissive. So that's why the child is doing this. Or you are the one who did this, that's why the child is doing this. But if we view this and we say, okay, so the problem we have here is the child. What is the child doing? The child is not coming home early, is not listening and stuff like that. Now, it does not mean that between the parents there's someone who may be doing something to encourage the child to do this.
Yeah, I think on that point, men need to listen, because men generally, when the child is doing well, it's my child. When the child starts doing something, it's the mother.
It's the mother.
Yeah, so men, please listen to this one.
Yes, so we can actually take that issue and say, on your own, so between the two of us, what could we be doing? So no one is pointing fingers on anyone, but between the two of us, what could we be doing that could contribute to this child doing this? So you talk for yourself. Maybe myself, I'm allowing this child to do whatever he likes. Or maybe from my husband's perspective, he is probably not being available when he's supposed to be available to mentor the child or to teach the child something. So the next step is, how then can we change? Starting with the two of us before we even go to the child. So I am going to be more consistent probably with my rules. I'm not going to allow the child to do this. And probably the father will be like, okay, on my part, I'll be available to have conversations with this child, or maybe to take this child to do some other things that are not engaging in undesirable behavior. So for conflict to bring us close together, it's when we understand that we don't need to blame each other. So we are working together.
All right.
And we are taking responsibility, each of us together.
So point fingers at yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, I hear you there. And then on the escalation of arguments, are there any strategies? Yes, you spoke about not blaming each other, but when we have got an argument, let's say we are always having an argument with my wife, are there any strategies that you can give us that help us not to escalate arguments every time? Because in a house, we can start by saying, and then argument starts from and then
exactly.
And then it becomes 2 weeks not talking to each other.
Yes.
Are there any strategies which we can use not to escalate arguments in a marriage?
So the best first strategy is to stop. The moment we see Gonzo here, and in Dr. someone will be like, no, someone will be like, Impera. Someone should be able to keep quiet. Because the thing is, we are not going anywhere. The reason why argument escalates is, I don't want to be defeated, you don't want to be defeated, and we keep on. So it's either both of you keep quiet or one keep quiet so that the argument does not go on. However, there's an issue that already there's a conflict here. Usually when you have constant arguments in a marriage, it's not really about the goals. There is something underlying that you have not addressed. Because we can't really argue about this goals or that past. So I would say if it's like that, you also need to probably stop, but also seek help. Because there's definitely something. Either if you don't want to seek help, you need to sit down and say, Maimwana, what is really happening here? Because we just fought about the goals. Or you find someone who can initiate the conversation for you, either professional or an elder we've spoken about, or a friend or someone. But definitely if there's constant conflict, there are unresolved issues.
Okay. So next time, just listen about the cons. Sort out issues that are happening in your marriage. You mentioned infidelity when we started as one of the causes of conflict. How does trust and forgiveness contribute to resolving conflicts? Yes, there's been probably infidelity, or maybe it hasn't been there, but there are trust issues. How does trust and forgiveness contribute? Maybe someone has committed adultery or infidelity in the marriage. What role does forgiveness play? And also, what role does trust play? Because probably you might forgive me, but going forward, I also need you to trust me. Because the moment I come back home 10 p.m., you are beginning to think, oh, maybe he's doing his stuff. How does trust and forgiveness help in solving conflicts in marriage? The conflict has already been resolved. We've spoken about it. But how does total forgiveness and total trust help in moving forward?
That's a very good question. So trust is very, very important in terms of moving forward, in terms of resolving or even reducing conflict.
Okay.
But I think what men need to understand is that trust does not come from nowhere.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So this has happened, we've resolved the conflict, but as you said, you need this person to trust you. But remember, what broke the trust were actions. There's something that you did, okay?
Okay.
And the trust was broken.
Maybe let me talk about what I've observed.
Yes.
This is my observation. Maybe you will help me here.
Yes.
I've observed that in marriages, men easily trust, but women don't. Or
Okay.
I don't know, but for men it's or maybe we trust because probably we think our women have no capacity to go out there and commit adultery. That's why you probably find out that most men, when they hear that the woman has cheated, they really, most of them, some of them even could go on to commit suicide because they have been trusting him. So I wanted to raise this point because I'm thinking, you are saying to women, to men, trust is end. But I'm also saying, isn't it that women also have got this level of, I don't know the opposite of not of trust, this level of not trusting, even if there is nothing that is happening, rather than compared to men. I feel like the way your husband would react if you come home at 12 a.m. In the morning is different from the way you will react if he comes home at the same time. Yeah.
I probably don't agree with you.
Okay.
Because I think that the differences in reaction is more on cultural basis rather than trust.
Okay.
I think that because you paid lobola and you are an African man, and we know that when it's generally in the community not expected for a man to cheat.
For a woman to cheat.
For a woman to cheat.
Yeah.
So you're not expecting your wife to cheat. That is why when they find out that the woman cheats, they could commit suicide. It's not because they trust.
I thought it was trust betrayal.
I don't think that's trust. I think that's just because it's not expected for a woman to do.
Okay.
And you know why I'm saying that? Because most of the men, in my experience, most of the men, if they find out that the woman cheats, they divorce. Most of the men.
Yeah,
Yet the men,
99%.
yes. And that is because I don't want to be seen with a wife who has cheated because I'm the man. But most of the men cheat several times. Although they don't easily forgive, they stay in there.
Okay.
So it's more of the cultural issues rather than that the men would be trusting. However, I was talking about the
trust being end.
Trust being end. That what broke the trust is that you have done something. You have done some action that broke the trust.
Yeah.
But what I find with most men is we've sat down, you have apologized, trust me now.
Oh yes, you are showing the trust.
You are showing the trust. You are not doing anything. And men also don't understand that it's actually normal, natural, that if you have apologized today and we have agreed that okay, we are starting over, and you come late, it's natural for me to think that you are doing it again.
Yeah.
So I can't just start to say, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Yet last week you were cheating. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I feel like men fail to understand that naturally, it will take time. It will take time for me to trust you, and it should also take time for you to be consistent in your behaviors. So, for example, the coming home late that you've spoken about. So if you knew you have done some shenanigans in the past, then it means that when it's 8 o'clock, do send a message. Do something different. Yeah. I'm just letting you know that I might be 10.
Do a video call.
Yes.
Here I am.
Do a video call. Here I am. I'm alone here. I just want you to see. Yeah. Even if it looks like it's funny, but to the wife, it's going to show that, okay, I think he's changing.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you continue with your ego, that just saying, I'm not doing it, so if you're not trusting me, I'm just coming home late and this and that, it's not going to work. Right. It has to be end.
Okay. Yeah, just to throw in some form of humor there.
Yeah.
You spoke about the cultural aspects of men being the ones that cheat. That's our cultural perspective. Yeah. I've been watching the DNA show at National Data.
Oh yes.
And 63% of the results are negative in the sense that the children that are taken there do not belong to the
fathers.
So that's 63%.
Mm-hmm.
On the issue of cheating, isn't it that also men probably we don't know how to hide it? Because if a woman has cheated to an extent that you only find out through the DNA that this is not your child, it means they can conceal this thing like no man's business. But we as men, like you have said, from a cultural perspective, because we take the ball and think, she cannot do anything.
Yeah.
But there are also women out there who become a film. Yeah. So I'm just trying to then twist it and say, because you have mentioned that men are 99% they divorce once they find out.
Yes.
So when you're touching about forgiveness and trust, I also want it to be both sides as well.
Yes.
Because there can be a man who has been cheated who decided to stay with his wife.
But they are there, but very few.
Yeah, that's
because look at the show. At the show.
Yeah.
Once a man knows, very few men will be like, I'll take care of this.
No, but there's one guy, one kid, I call him kid because he was young. Who the woman, I think the relative, the woman was the one who was not fighting. The kid was saying, no, we love each other.
Yeah.
I'm staying with my
wife.
And the woman was saying, you are not doing that. This is dangerous. So it's sometimes we want to accept. But the community is pushing us.
I know, yes, I know. But I think men, once they know, most of them would not choose to stay with that woman. But I do agree that there are some women who are doing the same, who cheat. And of course, women are good at hiding things than men. Yeah. Men cannot hide any lie. That's why we easily catch you when you do something. But I think the issues of trust are very important from both sides.
All right.
And some issues of trust in marriage, they also come from pre-marital phase, where people meet. I've had some couples where nothing has happened in the marriage. Like the man could not tell me anything that happened that could say, I now mistrust my wife. But the fact that they met at a pub. And so it kept on playing in his head but what was she doing? Yeah. But why did you get it from there?
Take it from there?
You see? So some issues stem from there. But trust is very important. It's very important for us to trust each other. Because when I trust you, it goes back to conflict resolution. When I trust you, it means that I'm thinking that you will not do anything to harm me. You will not do anything to violate my feelings. So that means when you make a mistake, I will not immediately think that is deliberate, like what we say, because I trust you.
Okay.
I will think that there should be something to explain this.
It's a mistake.
It's a mistake. So trust is very important. And also forgiveness is very important because sometimes when we don't forgive, it's hard to move on. We can say we have moved on, but it's hard to move on.
Okay.
So I know that sometimes for women, especially if there's infidelity in a marriage, it's hard to forgive because they are probably thinking that this person will do it again. So it needs to be a joint venture thing. Right. While the man is showing the action to show that I've stopped this, then the woman is also trying harder to forgive.
Okay.
So that at least we meet each other halfway if we want this thing to work.
Okay. All right. And then in your experience, probably, in your profession, what are the long-term benefits of a healthy conflict resolution for a marriage? Healthy conflict resolution, and probably what can you call a healthy conflict resolution?
I think the benefits, a healthy conflict resolution is when we finish talking about a disagreement without hating each other. Or without continuing, because there are some people who discuss, just throwing humor there are some people who discuss a conflict or something that happened. They finish discussing, they still go separate ways. They still sleep, someone in another room or another in another room or facing that side. They are not talking to each other. So that's not healthy. Healthy conflict is when you are able to discuss this thing and still come together, and still talk, and still be normal again. And the benefits of it is that you grow. So what people don't understand is that marriage evolves. And that's one of the things probably that causes problems in marriage. People don't understand that marriage evolves. It grows as you grow. Because by the time I met you, maybe I did not have these goals, I did not have this PhD, and maybe you did not have this business, but we are growing.
Yeah.
So we need healthy conflict to help us to continue to grow together. If the conflict is unhealthy, then it's impossible for us to grow together in a good way.
Right. All right. There's a word that I came across when I was looking at conflict. It's called conflict entrepreneurs.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it was one day they were talking about wars. To say that whenever there is a war, for example, there is a civil war in Zimbabwe. There are people that are benefiting from that war.
Oh, yeah.
They are the entrepreneurs of that conflict. So as much as you are sitting on the table trying to resolve the conflict, there is a problem that you are not going to solve it because there are people failing the conflict because they are benefiting from the conflict. In marriage, from that context, we probably might have some relatives or some other people that are going to benefit from or that become entrepreneurs of the conflict, whereby probably it's my sister who is thinking if he divorces the wife,
yes,
I'm gonna benefit more, he's gonna give me more money. Or it's my mother who is thinking if they divorce, then he's gonna look after me in a better way. How do you deal with conflict entrepreneurs?
Okay, so I think that's a very good concept because we have them in marriages. And I think that the best way to deal with them is to make sure that both of you in the marriage, you understand that this is our marriage and it's us who are supposed to benefit from the marriage. So the moment it appears that there's someone who, perhaps wants to benefit from this conflict, then you should be able to pick it up and not feed from it. Because I think from the context of my experience, what men do, not very many acknowledges that their family members can be entrepreneurs of this conflict.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that, I think I don't remember the point that you're talking about. I wanted to mention how important it is for me when I'm getting married. If I know that my sister has got problems in this area, and if I know that my mom has got problems in this area, how important is it for me to warn my wife? Probably I know that my sister, let me just say, probably I know that she's a gossiper or she loves money. How important is it for me to warn my wife to say, these are my relatives, I know them better than you do. Yeah. Is that necessary?
Yeah, I would say that.
Since you are a sister as well, probably if you hear your brother has one to grow up, I'm going to take you out of Australia. How would you?
I would say that there is it's a bit difficult, this one, because in my experience I've met people who have done that and it came back to bite them. When the wife is now saying, you told me that your sister is like this, and then it's fueling the conflict. But if you know, I would say for men, know your wife, know your person. If you know that your person is also someone who likes arguments and someone who would take it further, then there need to be wisdom in how you warn him. Don't go straight and be saying my sister is like this. Just say, let's say she wants to give, the sister is asked. Just say, with this one, she will always be asking. So let's not give her constantly. Let's agree on giving. Find something in wisdom way if you think that there is a conflict that will come in future. But there are some men who have done it and it really works. It works if you understand that we are one and we are not going to use information that we give each other against each other.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. You are here in Australia and you are dealing with so many couples that are here. In general, what are the most common causes of conflict for Zimbabwean couples, particularly those living here in Australia?
Well, the most common is the failure to acknowledge that marriage evolves. Okay. Like what I said, that the failure to acknowledge the differences in context. So what I find is that people don't understand that the contexts are now different, and it needs men to actually, especially men, to actually change the way they were doing things back home. Because it's a busy lifestyle. We all know that there is no support, there are no nannies, there is nothing. So I find that that one is a big issue because men want to continue to come back from work and read the newspaper. Whereas the context here in Australia, it's very different.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the biggest things that causes problems. Many women complain that men do not help at all. They do not help with the chores. They still want to continue to do, to just say, I'm the head of the house, I don't do this. There are also issues of decision making. You know, sometimes men just make their decisions, they don't involve their women. There are issues of parenting. That one is a big thing. Where, because, you know, our children are struggling fitting in, and we are also struggling fitting in. But then there are issues of, you know, couples blaming each other for the whatever is happening with the kids. There are many issues in Australia. What else?
Yeah, there's one, because you spoke about men, how they fail to what do you call it, to adjust to chores and stuff, helping homes. I'm also finding many women failing to adjust to the fact that they are earning more than their husbands.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really big issue within the community. I think we discussed this issue on one of our programs. But what's your input? Are you seeing that? We from men's circles we say vakadzi vedu vari kuvhurukira mari kana vauya kustraining. So you as a woman, so you as a woman, have you ever come across that?
Yes.
And how do you handle such, or how do you advise such? Because most men, when we talk about it, what I don't like is most men, when we talk about it, men who have not experienced it, they are always saying, unenge wakutsiriwa because you're Zimbabwe,
which could be true.
It could be true, but in some cases that I've dealt with, it's not true.
Okay.
Probably it's someone who was actually raised in a way that when the money comes in, it's on the table. It's us who all make decisions. So to someone who is not whose husband has been doing well in Zimbabwe, but what advice can you give that woman?
That's interesting. Yes, I found those ones, but I actually find different issues connected to this.
Okay.
And one of the major issues in terms of this one is that the way finances are managed in a marriage. So, for example, the one that you're talking about, how have these people been managing finances in the past? So what's happening is the wife has come to Australia, and now it's a lot now. The money is really a lot in this woman's bank. What men have been doing is we haven't been using our finances together. Okay? Umaitamba yake umashitamba yake.
Babatanidza tabulu.
Yes, owandisa but makuenda kuvhunduka. Makunda kubatanidza. So I think the issue here, setting aside that there could be women who are really maybe not wanting to share or sure, but I think what I found from my experience is that the main issue is agreement in terms of how you are managing your finances.
Right.
Because if we have got only 2,000 in my husband's or in our household, and we've always been consistent in using the money as ours, that means if he gets a lot of money or I get a lot of money, there shouldn't be changes.
Yeah, there shouldn't be a problem.
But there will be a problem if we've always been separate.
Okay.
So I think agreement in terms of how the money should be used is very important. But also to that woman who is probably when the money is there, I would say that it's important to know that marriage is got seasons. It doesn't mean that if you have got money for these 5 years, you are just continuing to have money. There is always ups and downs. For us, we've been married. I've been married for 18 years.
Oh,
yes.
That's a long time.
There's always seasons. Someone will get more money, someone will get less money. Someone will get, the business will get better, the business will go down. So it shouldn't be a marriage that is driven by money.
All right.
Yeah.
So 18 years with one husband.
Yes.
Okay, that's how
our
they ask.
anniversary was on the 3rd of January.
Oh, congratulations. Yes. That's how they ask, Australians ask. They say, I've been married for 15 years. They say, oh,
with one husband.
One husband. Because you wonder, in 15 years is not a lot. No, that's all right. Because one of the topics we looked at it, the topic was called, can a marriage survive? The wife is earning more.
Oh,
so that is the topic.
Yeah.
It's going to come through our broadcast soon. It was suggested by another person when we were still broadcasting on Facebook. So that was last year. So I'm hoping the person is still alive to see the topic being discussed.
Yeah.
So I just thought when you hear people bringing that, probably there are issues around pertaining to that. So we brought someone to come in and talk about it, like you have said. All right. For the last question probably that I have. For Zimbabweans married to people from other nationalities, are there particular cultural differences that often lead to conflict?
A lot.
Okay.
A lot of them. And I'm not saying this to scare people who want to marry from other nationalities, but I think you should just do your work prior. But there are a lot of issues that causes conflict. In my experience, when I was still in South Africa, I actually had done premarital counseling, and when we finished, they said no, we are not going ahead with the marriage because there were a lot of differences that they could not contain. That I just pointed to them that there's this. So when discussing conflict, when you are now married, how are we going to deal with this? And they were like, no. So the issues are they look simple, but they're a big issue. For example, food.
Yeah.
The food that you would like to eat is not the food that I like to eat in my culture. There are issues of the roles and responsibilities, where in other cultures men are expected to do 1, 2, 3. In other cultures, it's different. So those issues may cause conflict. I will give you an example. When I was still in South Africa, I went for a ladies' meeting, and we were just talking about what are we going to do after this ladies' meeting. All African people. And I was like, when I go back home, I'm going to iron my husband's clothes. And the lady from Ghana, I don't know if all Ghanaians do that with a specific thing. She was very surprised.
You iron your husband's
She was like, you iron your husband's clothes? Did you wash them? I said, yes. Then why do you have to iron when you have washed them? I said, well, that's what we've always been doing. And I said, but what do you guys do? And she said, no. The men in Ghana, in her culture, iron the clothes. Since she was married, she had been married for 10 years, and I always seen, the husband was a pastor, I've always seen him in very ironed clothes, and I would be like, oh, Mom Fundis does her job.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's not me.
It's him.
It's him, because that's what we do in our culture. Now imagine if it's vice versa.
Now I've married a Ghanaian woman.
And he's expecting you to... Oh my goodness, it will be a big thing. So there's those expectations. There are issues around religion also, that usually a certain culture is attached to a certain religion, and the differences may cause problems. There are issues around family. Some families don't want someone from a particular culture. They'll be like, no, we don't want you to marry from this culture.
I've seen a culture, I think it's a Nepalese culture or something, where the woman is the one that pays the bride price.
Yeah.
Now I can just imagine I married that one, and then I'm meaning me.
Now you see.
Yeah. No, yeah. So I think even our young people, our young boys and so forth, I think we need to sit down, especially those that are reaching the age of marriage.
Yeah.
We need to sit down and talk to them, especially when they are deciding to marry
or to be in a relationship.
From different cultures. Well, I also have challenges because I'm a married officer myself. African parents sometimes the child is decided to marry someone from Australia. Maybe he's not even a Christian.
Yes.
They then probably expect me to then start ministering to this person
It's not what
I've heard that several times.
Yes.
And I would always look at them and say, the laws here do not even allow me to cancel them before marriage.
Yeah.
I have to recommend them to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And they'll say, no, actually,
yeah. Oh my goodness.
So that's why I'm saying probably we need to sit down even with our boys as well before they decide.
Yes.
And make them see. For example, a simple thing like we do in Africa, we take care of our parents.
Yes.
But I've seen some people here in Australia, if they give their parents money, it's a loan.
Yes.
They have to pay it back.
Yeah.
So if you are married to a white Australian, you are giving your mom money back home, and then your wife is asking you, when is she paying it back?
Exactly. And why does she want us to give her money?
Yeah, why does she want us to give her money? They don't understand all those things.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Dr. Rumbi. This was our program. I hope a lot of you have benefited much on conflict resolution on marriages. You were so eloquent in the way you were tackling our questions, and I'm believing if you hear us calling you back, it means people have requested. In this program, we ask people to request. So people are probably going to request and make you come back here and probably dig deeper into this subject. But for me personally, how you have answered everything, it seems like you are a, what do you call it, an expert in conflict resolution. Yeah, thank you so much for coming in today, and may you have a wonderful day. I don't know if you have anything else to say to our viewers.
Thank you very much. I think I don't have much to say. I would just say that to the married couples, my heart breaks so much because I've seen a lot of marriage breakdowns in Australia, especially when people move here.
Yeah.
So the issue of adjusting to this Australian environment is really a big thing for people. So I am really appealing to couples to seek help. And remember, seeking help is not only coming to me for counseling.
Yeah.
It's many ways. It could be coming to a fellow brother and say, this is what is happening for me. How are you guys doing it? It could be finding someone who has been married 10 years in Australia. How are you guys doing it?
Yeah.
Could be attending a group. Try to protect your marriage, revive your marriage before it really breaks down. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rumbi. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our program today, Gota Men's Issues. I also want to encourage you, we have got what we now call Gota Foundation, which is a program where we are looking at, where we are working with young boys and young men from the age of 6 up to the age of 18. We are being active, we are doing sports, and then on some days we are discussing certain topics that have got to do with boys. So if you live in and around the western side, that's where we are doing it right now. Sometimes we do bike rides, we bring them and we go around riding our bikes together with an adult supervising them. And then after that, we probably talk about topics. We don't mix them, we put them according to their ages. So if you live in the western side, just check Gota Foundation on Facebook. We'll be updating you on when we are meeting and probably which parks we are going to be popping up on. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining today. I hope you have been helped on conflict resolution in marriage. My name is Lawrence Mazingi. Thank you so much.